Hello guys, how are we doing? Today we look at the role of the in-game leader, or the IGL as it is commonly known as. We're going to be looking at the role, the skills and the impact of having a decent IGL for the team, and hopefully if you're hoping to be the IGL for your team, you're going to improve after this video. Even if you're not looking to be the IGL of your team, it's nice to know what skills are required to be an IGL, because you might think, you know what, I tick all of these boxes, I'm going to give it a go. The gameplay you're watching, before we do get into the details, with the gameplay you're watching, I'm doing just that. I'm playing with a couple of people who don't know spawns particularly well. They're fairly new to the game. They've not really played COD before this one, and they needed someone to take that leadership role. And of course, I stepped up. I'm fairly okay with spawns. I know map control, and I play this game enough to be able to provide the knowledge the team needed to get the dub. I'm not going to tell you the stat line I go, but it's not bad. I top frag, I get the least amount of deaths, I think, as well, and I get a minute on hill time. But I'm not going to tell you exactly how it went, because I was told off a couple of videos ago, so I'm not going to do that. But I just wanted to say again, just before I go into the IGL bits and bobs, thank you for the support. The second Help with Harrz episode went out a couple of days ago now, and you guys are loving it. And that's great to see. I'm glad you guys are finding it helpful. Those of you who still want to submit, the link's in the description. So if you want to, if you want me to scrutinize, you've got a gameplay you don't think is quite as good as you want it to be, feel free to drop it in the submit it, and I will review it. But yeah, IGLing. So at the moment it's a bit of a blurred situation, and we're going to go into that a little bit later. But the IGL is an AR or an SMG who is the leader of the team. They basically make the decisions, they call shots, and they've got the communication knowledge and just general spawn control skills to be able to lead the team to the dub. If you're a fan of the CDL, you're going to be aware of a few of them. So Arcetiz was one for Phase. You've got Bance, Envoy, Illy, Ghosty, Accuracy for Surge. They all play the IGL role. Now, typically, you're going to notice, if you're a fan of the CDL, obviously you're going to know, but the SMGs don't typically take on that IGL role. Now, the reason for that is because part of being the IGL is reading the map, understanding what's happening at a particular time, and being able to communicate with the team effectively to make plays and push a certain way to influence spawns and things like that. Now, when you are an SMG and you're a lot more aggressive and the interactions are high and you're in the face of the enemy team quite frequently, it's not always easy to take a couple of seconds to read the game and understand what's happening. Now, it takes, obviously, Envoy and Bance are very skilled COD players. They do a lot of their things without even having to think about it. So they don't really have to take that time out, which is why it works. But realistically, that's why you see a lot of main ARs take on that leadership role. And yeah, essentially, it depends. So on hardpoint, obviously, it's a little bit different to how it works on S&D control, but on hardpoint, it's the IGL's sort of responsibility to work out whether or not it's worth rotating to a hill. So, for example, just like, if the team's still pushing old and you realise that there's only 20 seconds left of old, it's your job to go, guys, let's rotate, let's not push this, we're going to push out spawns, things like that. Reading the map as well, understanding where your teammates are, and therefore where your enemy is going to be. From having good spawn knowledge and knowing where your team are blocking, you're going to be able to know where the enemy team is spawning, and it's your job to be able to communicate that effectively to your team, so they know where not to push in order to keep that spawn, and where they need to fry. So you want to sit back, you're blocking the main spawn, and you can go, hey, Shotsy, if you're Ghosty, well, pre this season, obviously, hey, Shotsy, go and fry, I'm blocking spawns, do what you need to do. That's the role of the IGL for hardpoint. And when it comes to S&D, it's a little bit different, because S&D, there's no respawns, you don't really need to know spawns, and most of it is just the kickoff strat. That and having mid-round adjustments. So say, for example, you've got you're putting a lot of pressure onto one bomb site, you've got a couple of enemies down, and you think, you know what, let's rotate it, let's flip it, let's switch it up a little bit, turn it on their heads. They're not really going to expect it, and it's the role of the IGL to maybe make that decision or approve that decision. Now, as I said, it doesn't have to be one player. As the guy, the Optic coach said, it's whoever has the most info. So if it turns out that, I don't know, someone's shots is in there and he knows what he's doing, and he's got all the info you want, that's when it changes. That's when it changes. The IGL as an AR is not always going to have all the information, and therefore it's whoever's alive or whoever's got the knowledge to make the decisions themselves. It's also on S&D suggesting strats. So a lot of teams, especially if you play as a 4-stat, you're going to have this more frequently than people who solo queue, obviously. But in S&D, there's a lot of strats that work. So, for example, you spawn on Mikado offense, and you're thinking it's the IGL that's going to suggest let's push B. I mean, it's a rogue choice, but it's the IGL's decision to push B, and he's likely to be the one that does that. Now, everyone can do it, obviously, but yeah, it's the IGL to be the controller and therefore make the final decision, essentially. Obviously, there will be exceptions to what I'm saying based on teamwork and how the teams mold and the, just general team vibe. So take it with a pinch of salt, but this just goes to 90% of the situations. Now, when it comes to control, it's a little bit of it's a bit of a hybrid, if I'm honest, between Hardpoint and S&D. Yes, there's respawns, but yes, they're flawed. There's no way to flip spawns and things like that. But there is a little bit of spawn control. So it's up to the IGL, very similar to both, as I say, to make the decision to rotate to the new control point, to stack a point, to leave one on the point and the rest spawn trap. So LSELO, you can leave one person on B and the rest go to the hill or go to the tents and spawn trap. It's the IGL role to make that decision and think, you know what, that's the best thing to do for the team. Now, obviously, this is all easier said than done. There's a lot of things, obviously, people need to do in order to get to that level of IGL in. The first thing you're going to need, especially on this game, is spawn knowledge. If Modern Warfare 3 is anything like Modern Warfare 2 for spawns, you're going to have to have good spawn knowledge, because otherwise you're going to get absolutely bollocked for not having good spawn knowledge. Very essential to be able to read the map, understand where the enemy's spawning, and therefore where you guys need to push and communicate that effectively. That leads me on to the next one, communicating effectively. In order to be an IGL, you need to stay cool, calm, and collected to provide the team with all the information they need. And make the points you need to make. It's pointless having someone absolutely screaming and yelling at you to do something, because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. No one wants to listen to that, and it just makes it. It doesn't. It's not effective. Whatever you're communicating at that point is no longer effective. You also obviously need good map awareness, and you need to be fast thinking. You need to be able to make decisions on your toes. It's pointless having an IGL who's staring at the minimap for 10 seconds to make a decision, because things change so quickly on COD, especially in a respawn. You need to be able to, critical thinking very quickly, and make the decisions on the fly. And yeah, the last thing is obviously it's in the name, but leadership. You need to have leadership roles. So you need to be able to be assertive. You're going to need to be motivating. So when the team's down bad, say the team's 150 down, I mean, it's going to be drastic, but let's say the team's down 150 points on Mikado Hardpoint. It's up to the IGL to be that motivating player within the team. You want to be, communicating that it's still doable. At the end of the day, is the leader. If you're someone that people respect, people look up to, if you're down bad, they'll be down bad. It's not great for anyone, and you will end up losing the map if vibes stay down. You might as well be positive. Worst case scenario, if you stay positive, is that you were wrong and you lost anyway. So it is what it is. And all this leads to winning more games. Obviously, if you've got a solid IGL, you're part of a 4-stack all the time, and you've got someone who takes that role on. Send them the video. I mean, tell them what they need to work on. Obviously, the things you're going to need to work on is spawn knowledge, communication, map awareness, and fast thinking. They're the easy bits and bobs. Just as we finish the game, by the way. But yeah, even if let's say you're not the IGL for your team, and you're thinking, actually, the skills you've mentioned here, I can do very simple. Maybe it's a conversation you need to have with your team. You have and say, you know what, I think maybe it's best if I take that leadership role, or we share it at the end of the day. Like I say, it's not just one person's job in the team to do it. So yeah, that's IGLing. So as you can see, I go 33 and 15. You're going to see the amount of SR I get here. And generally speaking, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found it useful. If you didn't find it useful, I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. That's going to be me for now. Enjoy the video. Oh, enjoy the rest of your day, sorry. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao. Yeah, I'll give you a ping. All right, GG's, boys.